Hey everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter, and you are joining me for Project 3 of my Reindeer Fun card class at home. For this card, I'm going to be using this sentiment from the Reindeer Fun stamp set, and I'm also using a die to cut out a reindeer out of the Reindeer Days Designer Series paper. If you don't have the dies, that's fine. You can fussy cut an image out. And also, if you don't have this set, use whatever you have in your stash. All right, let's get started. I'll go through all the pieces and the measurements. So to start out, I have got a piece of garden green for the card base, and that is 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4.25 on the 8.5-inch side. And then I've got, oops, I always forget to shut the volume off on my computer and then I get feedback. Sorry about that if you heard the feedback. It's something I always forget to do. Okay, basic white. This is for the inside. This is 4 by 5.25. For the front of the card, I've got a granny apple green layer, and this is 5 by 3.75. I've got a piece of Designer Series paper from the Reindeer Days pack, and this is 4.75 by 3.5. For the sentiment, I cut out a piece of basic white. This is 3.5 by 1 inch, and another piece of the garden green, and this is 3 5/8, so just a smidge bigger, or longer I should say, than this piece. So 3 5/8 by 1 1/8. And then I have also die cut out a reindeer from the Reindeer Days Designer Series paper, and that's going to be the focal point on our card. So this is super simple. There's not a lot to it, and it's going to come together really quickly. So we'll start out just by stamping the sentiment. Now I have a Poppy Parade ink, but I meant to grab my garden green. Just give me 1 second. I just left it around the corner. All right, so I've got garden green, and I've got my sentiment, may all your days be full of cheer. And I'm just going to stamp this right in the middle of that strip of basic white. Okay, now I'm going to get this ink out of the way so I don't accidentally drop my card in it. And then I'm just going to layer this sentiment piece onto the strip of the garden green. So I stamped the sentiment just a smidge closer to the top of the cardstock. I should have mentioned that before. So I intentionally stamped closer to the top to leave a little bit more room at the bottom, because I'm going to add a little bit of this real red and white baker's twine. So I'm just going to fold the edge of this twine over, and I'm going to secure that down with a piece of tear and tape. And then I'm going to wrap it around my sentiment piece just a couple times. I'll snip that, and then I'll hold that down with my scissors while I grab another piece of tear and tape. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to secure that piece down as well. And I'm just going to set this aside. So for the card front, I'm going to mat the Designer Series paper onto the piece of granny apple green. And then once that is stuck down, I'll just glue this to the front of my card base. So this is definitely the simplest card out of this card class at home. Usually I tend to work from easiest to more complicated, starting with the easiest card for my first project. But for this class, I was completely opposite what I normally do. So if you've already watched project number 1, that was a little bit more complicated because it had lots of pieces to put together. And card number 2 had die cutting and embossing. And then this card is definitely the easiest. So I'm going to add dimensionals to the back of the sentiment piece. And then I'll pop that up onto my card front. Like so. I have got some adhesive backed peppermints. I'm going to add one. Oh shoot, I've already smudged it. I don't know if you can see that with the green ink on my fingers. That's okay. What I'm going to do is try to cover that up with a little cluster of peppermints, and you won't even know. There, that's perfect. So I actually had intended, well, this one was slightly misshapen, and that's going to bug me. So I intended only to put 1 peppermint on my card, but it's getting 3 because I have inky fingers. Okay, now the reindeer I'm going to pop up just on the left side of the sentiment. So I'm going to use my regular dimensionals on the head and the body of this deer. And I think I can, if I can fit a mini, I'll also add dimensionals to the legs. Yes, that one just fit, but I don't want my dimensionals to show, so this might be a little bit too small. So what I can do, if you just want a little bit more stability with your focal point, is you can easily cut full size or even the mini dimensionals in half, and then just cut them to whatever size you need. All right, so I've got the dimensionals on. I'm just going to pull off the backs. So one little tiny one is a little more stubborn. There we go. Okay. Now, this little reindeer, actually, I can fit 1 more dimensional right on its tail. Okay. I've got dimensional backing sticking to me. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this guy up right to the left of my sentiment piece. Like so. Okay, last thing is just adding our basic white layer to the inside of the card. And you may want to add a little bit of stamping to the inside of your card, or designer series paper, whatever you like to do to jazz things up. I will probably go back into this card before I send it, and maybe add a little bit of stamping. I probably will do the holly in garden green, and then I'll use real red for the berries. That'll look really nice. All right, so there is card number 3 for our reindeer fun card class at home. It was the easiest and most simple out of all 3 designs. I hope you really enjoyed this card class at home, and stay tuned for December because I will come to you again with another free card class at home. Thank you so much for watching.